and the lunch is very dangerous.
Okay, I'm not going to take my name is Islam Al-Khafaji. I'm also from Iraq, but I'm not going to talk about Iraq. Very short, remarks, two remarks actually, if I have the time. One, I'm afraid that we are minimizing the role of economic transformation. 20 years ago, it was taken as for granted that all we need is to dismantle state-owned economy and go into free market economy. Now, some countries, I'm not going to generalize, Russia and other countries in Eastern Europe, moved into something that might be much more dangerous than state-controlled socialism, which is mafia capitalism or crony capitalism. Now, I have said that before the fall of Saddam. I suspect that Syria and Egypt are very close to that or are very prone to that. Crony capitalism is no less dangerous than state-controlled socialism. The second comment, while I am categorically against fundamentalist ideas, I would like, because we need, and at least we hope, in the medium run, to put this blame game between Europe and the Muslim world into rest. And I think there is now a chance for that. This exaggeration of Islam as a way of life, etc., reminds me of political science in the 1960s and 50s and maybe well into the 70s. Why was Spain, and it was taken also for granted that Spain and Portugal, as well as Latin America, were dictatorial regimes simply because Catholicism is not suitable to democracy. It's only Protestant, and that Catholicism is a way of life. We have seen where such generalizations have gone. I think we should think about that before generalizing about Islam. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I detected two questions actually that need some answer, and I would like to ask for two volunteers from the panel to ask, one from the lady and one from the gentleman over there. So who is going to answer? Maybe the lady first. Alexander, maybe you try.
Yes, maybe some of those questions more general about practical advice. I don't think that we can give any practical advice, at least certainly not during this sort of general conferences. After that, there is a certain specificity of our countries because also it was imposed regime. This regime disaggregated itself from one day to another. It's meaning that people even of old regime who were even on the top regime, the next day they were presenting themselves, and quite often, quite honestly, as a Democrats. Just to give you an example, the most popular president in Poland after '89, it was the high-ranking Communist Party activist, Aleksander Kwaśniewski. He is still today, recently there was a question posed by public opinion polls about popularity. We had 4 presidents already after '89, and he was by far the most popular president. So you see, this is very different. In authoritarian, this is very deep in your countries. It is very deep in the culture, not only of your countries of culture. This is in our countries we find authoritarian strokes as well. So this is very different. In our case, of course, there was a problem of mafia, for example, transformation of plant economy into mafia's economy. It's been old boys network. They were ideological and party networks, and they transformed themselves into just old boys networks who are just fighting for their personal interests. So this is the problem. This is byproduct of the old regime's elites. But ideologically and politically, they disappeared as a coherent force, at least in the most of our countries. Now, I would well, I will not touch the problem of Islamism. I think this is more serious than the problem of Catholicism in Iraq, in Portugal, in Spain. Don't forget, however, that countries, very Catholic like Italy and France, were democratic after the war. So of course there was Max Weber thesis that capitalism, that Protestantism is much better for capitalism than Catholicism. That's true. And certainly that's true that there is no religion which is hostile to democratic institutions. Among Muslim countries, we have Turkey and we have Indonesia. Those are countries not perfect democracy yet, but they are not very developed yet either. So this is obvious, but we shouldn't underestimate. It seems to me that this is still quite possible. The biggest problem you will face, this is the problem how to find certain modus vivendi between traditional Islamic Arabic culture and modern culture, liberal democratic. And probably there will be different compromises and different political models in different countries. That's I don't know. And the last question, this is to your remark about Europe. I didn't mention it. Big difference between our countries and your countries is that in our countries, Europe and actually US, it was extremely important positive factor of our transformation. It was very strong initiative. The perspective of entering NATO and European Union played an enormous role in our country, mobilizing people and stabilizing democratic institutions. I wouldn't mention some countries where it was not that obvious that democratic institution will survive, and just because there was European Union, with limiting sovereignty, our limited. I heard Prime Minister, I was a little bit surprised. I heard he said, this is below any dignity of the nation to be monitored. But our transformation was based on being monitored by European Union, and fortunately so, European Union and US. And of course, and attitudes of our countries was very positive from the very beginning. We dreamed about entering Europe, and US was a sort of a dream at the second degree. In your countries, you have much more ambiguous attitudes towards US and towards Europe for many reasons. And Europe, of course, is not ready to offer you what was offering us. Not only the problem of immigration, I think that this is a scandalous problem. Just to mention one fact, when there was the war, when there was Yugoslavian, post-Yugoslavian war, 500,000 Serbs, Croats, and others were admitted to Germany only. And here is a big invite about 22,000 of people. It shows Europe changed. Europe certainly is not as rich as was. There was populist movements, extreme rightist movements which are exploiting it. And from this point of view, your situation is certainly worse than was ours.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Alexander answered for all of us, especially because time is out. I would like to spend 1 minute in not offering a summary, but drawing some conclusions. The first conclusion is that you should know that you will be swarmed with conferences and workshops in the next few months. My advice would be to try to make those conferences as concrete as possible, concentrating on certain issues. I think security sector reform that you have mentioned is a crucial issue in many places, actually, in the world, or judiciary reform. So I would suggest that you try to tell us to be much more concrete in most of these conferences or most of the panels. I have collected a few items that I think come as a kind of a conclusion from this debate. What are the areas where, and this list is not exhaustive, but what are the areas where we could share our experience with you? One is the practice of the roundtables, but I think President Zhelev mentioned very interesting that roundtables alone do not work. They need some support from the people. I think translating it into what happened in Tunisia and Egypt, also how to channel the street movements into democratic institutions, how to use that energy for building democratic institutions. The second one was very interesting. It was just mentioned, but I know from our Visegrad experience, how important it is regional cooperation. I think it is not an easy issue, but it's extremely important. Then I think again, it was mentioned that we should put more emphasis on bilateral relations, bilateral cooperation. I think this is also very important. We in Hungary are trying to figure out, I know about Poland too, how to do this, and this is an initiative that Bulgaria put forward. But it's also very important to concentrate on relations with the European Union. I tell you one piece of advice, if I may, contrary to what I suggested in the beginning. The European Union will always come to you with ready-made solutions. But you should go to the European Union with your request rather than accepting, because people are polite. They are coming to you that this is what you should do, and people are politely saying, yes, yes, don't do that. Tell what you really need and what you think. The next one is that Minister Martonyi mentioned that you should very carefully consider what advice is given, because advice is given in the best case from a different perspective, in the worst case against the background of a hidden agenda. So it's true for us too, for everybody. So be careful. Don't reject, but don't accept everything. And then the last one is the importance of a judiciary reform. There is no way you can create business atmosphere and reconciliation and rule of law without a very clear, very strong judiciary reform in your country. I think this was the ideas that came out. And last but not least, I want to advertise our own institution. And if you need some help, there are two institutions that are going. There are many, but that are going to concentrate on these issues in the future. One is I start with the most important, because this is the Hungarian one. This is the International Center for Democratic Transition, which we created 5 years ago, because we recognized that sharing experience is very important. So if you need somebody to talk to, I'm not promising that we can do everything, but please don't hesitate to come us if you are interested. I'll be happy to share my business card with you. And the second one is the newly emerging institution, the Community of Democracies, which in the future intends to concentrate on democratic transition, especially in the Middle East. I know Tunisia has already accepted to come to the next Vilnius meeting, which will be in Vilnius under Lithuanian presidency, because Lithuania is now double-headed. Actually, it has not only the OSCE presidency but also the Community of Democracies presidency. And you should take a good example from Lithuania, because both task forces are headed by a lady, actually, I think. So it's an important message too, as we saw one of the OSCE. The other one is also a very nice lady. So I think there are now new institutions, not only the traditional ones, but the traditional ones have to come to different approaches and different solutions. And I think the initiative should come from you, because these institutions will never take the initiative to tell you that, oh, we think we need to do something differently from what we have been doing all the time. It should come from you. And I think then that they will respond after that. Thank you very much for your patience. Thanks very much for the panel. I also wanted to share with you one more experience, but since Minister Mladenov left, I have to tell it now. My first and until now, actually, shame on me, last visit to Sofia was in 1972. And I didn't know that it was an important year, because I didn't see an important baby who was born in 1972, who then grew up to be the foreign minister, celebrating his birthday today. Probably this visit is also the day when a new foreign minister is being born somewhere in Bulgaria. So let's make a vow that we all come back in 39 years from now with that foreign minister. With that, I wish you bon appetit.